like I'm seeing with new eyes, even in the dark. Let's go get lost. Just take my hand, ignore the cost, forget the plan. I feel the hours ticking down. Wish I could turn it all around, but in my mind we're frozen perfectly in time. Can we turn back the night and stay in the streets for we feel? Can we turn back the night and stay in the streets for we feel? Can we turn back the night? Feels like I'm caught up in a trance. Can come down all night. The city never stood a chance. With you by my side, it's all ours. So don't second guess. Let down your guard. Just take a chance. I feel the hours ticking down. Wish I could turn it all around, but in my mind we're frozen perfectly in time. Can we turn back the night and stay in the streets for we feel? Can we turn back the night and stay in the streets for we feel? Can we turn back the night? Same old places come alive. Wherever we are, feels like I'm seeing with new eyes, even in the dark. Let's go get lost. Just take my hand, ignore the cost, forget the plan. I feel the hours ticking down. Wish I could turn it all around, but in my mind we're frozen perfectly in time. Can we?
What is good, Nimfam? Welcome back to another Team Help Ultimate Champion stream for Gameweek 154 or 154. And as you can see, I'm joined as always by the fabulous SpeedyQQ. How are you doing, buddy?
Very well, and you know, thanks for having me once again. Excited to get the stream going and maybe chat a little bit about Northampton as well. That was introduced onto Ultimate Champions yesterday.
Yeah, so we've had some big announcements this week, a lot of discussion this week. Tell us about the exciting announcement of Northampton.
Yeah, so they obviously were released yesterday. I know our community was waiting quite a while for it to be released, but obviously there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to get things up to scratch, like the assets and the athletes, etc., to get them out. And we would have actually released it a day earlier, but we had to align with our partners, Northampton, obviously, as well, before we released. So exciting to have another English club on the platform. I'm sure everyone is having a look at Northampton, checking out the players who are potential purchases and good to haves in their team. We'll cover the team and one of their athletes in a bit of detail a little later in the stream. There's obviously auctions happening at the moment, Dutch auctions and normal auctions with Northampton athletes within. So if you guys are lucky enough to grab some of them, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, we'll discuss a bit later because I know we do have an actual question from Discord as well about some of the athletes. So that'll be interesting to cover. But don't forget to get your general questions in, guys, because we have asked out in Discord. We've got a couple of questions, but if there's anything you'd like to know or something that springs to mind while you're watching the stream, then do pop it in the chat because we can add that to the end of the stream. Okay, we were going to show you a graphic of my team, but unfortunately things got a little busy this week and the graphic went awry. But I wanted to touch upon how I did as I got my second bit of Una in Gameweek 152-152 with 2,290 points, and I had 2 do not plays and only 1 man on the bench, so I'm feeling pretty chuffed with that result. Nabbed 14th place. Markovic, my new mythic acquired last week in that gold pack, coming up as my captain as clutch. So that was good stuff, wasn't it, Speedy? I was so chuffed.
Fantastic start to Markovic's career in your collection. I must say he scored as well, which was fantastic, and really had a good lineup going. There was obviously a couple of do not plays which were unfortunate. Otherwise, you could have been a bit further up. But like we say, always good to grab some MGC and especially a bit of Una.
Yeah, I was chuffed. I have a fairly good record in that tournament, so may or may not be sticking around in it this week again. Just, little taster there for you guys. But as most of you guys know, in these streams, we always give you a chance to win a pack, and this week will be no different. And this week, we're giving you the chance to win a silver pack, but not only 1 silver pack, but 2 silver packs. Tell them about it, Speedy.
Guys, we are giving away 2 silver packs. The reason being is we did not have a winner from our last week's question, which was which UC team will be involved in the match with the most goals for Gameweek 152. That match was Zlata Morovis versus Razumbarok, which was a 4-2. It was 6 goals, so there was no one that selected any of those specific teams. So that's a carryover, and that's why we'll have 2 silver packs up for grabs for Gameweek 154. The question, and you can put your UC manager name and your answer in the comments, in the text, is who will be the top scoring athlete for Gameweek 154. Like I say, we will have 2 silver packs that we'll give. So if there are a couple of managers that have selected the same athlete, we'll have 2 draws for that, and 2 silver packs are on offer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do what you need to do to qualify, obviously, for this lovely giveaway that we have for Gameweek 154.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that a bit, Speedy, actually, because I've noticed a bit of a surge of subs and then desubbing and then resubbing again. You guys, once you're subbed to the channel, you don't have to keep resubbing. Like once you subscribe to the channel, it's all good. You are eligible to win. So you don't have to keep unsubbing and resubbing. So all good, honestly. I appreciate it because it makes me feel like I'm getting loads of subs, but I'm actually just re-getting the same subs again. So yeah, just don't worry about it. Once you're subbed to the channel, it's just a one-time thing. Hit that button, hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live, and yeah, you'll be in with a chance as long as you get the answers into the chat during the stream. So all good. Right, let's head on, and before we do move on to 154, we would like to recap, as always, on our last stream's tips. So how did our players get on for Gameweek 152, Speedy?
Thanks, Namia. We always recap just to show how poorly I did with any potential selections from the previous week. We had Amin Adli, as you can see, played 83 minutes, 94 points. Leverkusen continued their unbeaten run in the Bundesliga. They won 2-1 against Mainz. Unfortunately, Adli wasn't involved in any of those 2 goals. However, for a striker, 94 base points in Ultimate Champions is still a decent return. So not too bad outcome in that regard. Now we get to our next 2. Stefan Tarnovano, been one of the best keepers in UC in the previous 6 or 7 games, scoring massive green scores, was involved in a great 3-2 victory. The win for FCSB was a little easier than the scoreline suggests. They scored a very late goal in injury time after, that is, Borisani, after Sorare was sent off late in the game. Tarnovano obviously conceded twice. He also had a below 50% passing accuracy, so that impacted his score massively, and it was a poor 28 points. He was probably watching our stream last week and thought, I'm going to get you, Speedy. And last but not least, I am racking up the DNPs. Lamina Yamal was left on the bench. Rapinha obviously took his place. Rapinha had quite a great game for Barcelona. They actually clipped a clean sheet for the first time in I don't know how many games, which was great.
In a
So
hot
obviously
minute with me having 2 of their epics, believe me.
yes. And so with them winning 4-0, obviously they didn't bring Lamina on even for a little cameo near the end. The good thing about you having Rapinha and Lamal is you could put one in and one on the bench, because they play the same position and potentially mix and match if one of them don't come on as a sub. So yeah, that was our coverage for our players from Game Week 152.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's have a chat about our teams then.
Teams did a lot better, and obviously when we do our teams for the upcoming game week, we mention a couple of players as well, which is fantastic. So we'll start off with CFR. Comprehensive victory against 15th place Dynamo. All the athletes we mentioned last week, you'll see them on the actual graphic, did well. So your Deke got an assist, Moha and Berlogy got a goal, Atele got 2 goals. So if any of you guys selected those athletes in your team, you would have had some fantastic scores with all of those. And then just before I bounce on to the next team, just remember there's a couple of game weeks left in Romania, and then they branch off into the championship and relegation rounds. Top 6 will be the championship, and the bottom 10 plays in the relegation. So just keep your eye on that. The fixtures aren't out for that, for when they break up, etc., but they will be available as soon as the league phase, for lack of a better term, comes to its end. Then we selected Tranmere Rovers. If you can remember, they had a great victory the week before. Turnbull and Davies getting on the score sheet from their central defence. Unfortunately, they conceded in first half stoppage time, and the 1-0 was the final outcome of that match. Turnbull and Davies obviously didn't do a repeat of the previous game week, but they still scored decently with their defensive and possessive stats, which was all right. And last but not least, Queen's Park Rangers versus Rotherham. 2-1 victory. With that victory, they've actually just moved out of, it's QPR, just moved out of the relegation zone on goal difference. And as you can see, Elias Chair, which we did mention last week, combined to give one of the goal assists. And then obviously Willock did very, very well to secure the victory for QPR. So not too bad on those teams.
Yeah. Just a good point raised by Roro in the chat. If you're saying Gabriel for the top scorer, could you please clarify which one? Because that is cheating. We need to know specifically. Thank you very much. Okay. So Speedy, we're reaching kind of the last stretch now of our kind of winter league season. Tell people what we have in store going forward. What's to look forward to?
Yeah, so obviously within Ultimate Champions, as you mentioned, it's the last stretch or the last quarter of most of our winter leagues. So it's exciting to watch this final stretch. Who will win the titles? Who will be relegated? And then obviously, very importantly, is as we reach the end of the season, what UC clubs and athletes could potentially lose coverage on UC due to relegation. Obviously, if they do move after relegation to a covered team, they'll be covered again. But in the leagues where we have UC teams, basically, that makes this final stretch exciting. We've got the English Premier League, exciting 3-team race for the title, and UC's flagship team, Arsenal, are in the running, and they are playing some scintillating football at the moment. Of course, every week we have to throw them in. Then the English Championship. Can Sunderland have a last quarter push and get into the promotion playoffs? And then can Sheffield Wednesday and QPR avoid relegation? In English League One, can Bolton and Peterborough, who really haven't been playing well of late, can they do a push as well? to solidify those promotion playoffs or even push for that permanent playoff position. English League 2, very important for Doncaster and Tranmere to obviously avoid relegation, as if any of these two UC teams get relegated, we do not cover the league and in Ultimate Champions below that. So important to have a look at that. La Liga, there's 12 matches left. Can Barcelona make a late surge to try and catch Real Madrid? They have been in relatively good form at the moment, but only time will tell. Bundesliga, very, very exciting. Can we get another invincible team, Leverkusen? Can they remain unbeaten for the entire season? Then, as I mentioned earlier, your Slovakian Night Liga, one more round, and then they move into the promotion and relegation rounds. Same as Romania and the Serbian Mozart-Bet Superliga. There are two more rounds in each of them. They then move to the promotion relegation rounds. French League 1, League 2, can Reims push for the European qualification? Can Le Havre, QRM and Troyes avoid relegation in their respective leagues? Second lastly, Scottish Premiership, Hibs, they are just outside of that top 6. I don't think they'll be able to catch St Mirren, but it's between them and Dundee. And there's a team below them to get that final 6th place because they also break off into a promotion relegation playoff. And then last but not least, at the end of March, the Norwegian Eliteserien starts. So that's our summer league. And that'll be exciting to look forward to. So I think in each of the leagues where we have UC teams coverage, it's exciting to see how those actual leagues play. A nice little tip as well is when your Serbia, your Slovakia, and your Romanians branch out, obviously, depending on what goes to the top promotion, to the championship round and the relegation round, you get a lot of those mid-table teams that just play against relegation in the relegation round against lower teams than them. So you can potentially pick up athletes that might be average when they play against great teams, but because they're playing the lower teams in that relegation zone, they could score quite well on Ultimate Champion. So that's something to look out for.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that really helped me on the crossover from summer to winter last time around. So that was good. And I was just thinking as I was listening to you there, Speedy, that I think you'd be very good at reading out the scores. You know, when they do they have the scores on the telly and they're like, Captain Stanley won. I was thinking the way you were rattling through that there, you sounded so good. Yeah. You need to be doing the voiceover for the scores on the telly and the 3 p.m s. Right, okay. Anyway, I just went off on a tangent there. Let's get on with Game Week 154. It's what we're all here for, isn't it? Let's chat about the teams to target for the up-and-coming Game Week.
So as we always say, we don't always go for the top teams on Ultimate Champion. So we'll start off with our new debutants, if we can put it that way, Northampton. Welcome. Obviously to Ultimate Champions. We released them, as I mentioned, yesterday. They are in English League 1 and are currently in 11th position. They're unbeaten in their last 3 outings with 2 wins and a draw. And they have an enticing fixture at home against another fellow UC club, Charlton Athletic, in Game Week 154. The previous fixture between them in January ended 3-2 or 2-3 because Northampton played away from home. So potential for another goal fest over the weekend. I expect athletes, and this will answer Gabby's question, which he asked in the Discord a bit earlier, but athletes such as Mark Leonard, Mitchell Pinnock and Kieran Bowie are potentially good selections, and maybe even John Guthrie in defence could be another one to potentially select from. As I mentioned earlier, they are available in the MGC pack, so if you've got some MGC to burn, good luck, you might pick some up there, and there's obviously some on the auction, and there might be some floating around in the marketplace as well. Moving on to Sheffield Wednesday, they're obviously relegation threatened at the moment, but they have 3 wins out of their last 4 fixtures. They're really putting up a fight to climb out of the relegation zone. I think the issue this season has been scoring goals. They've only scored 28 goals, which is the lowest in the entire league. Obviously, they were promoted last year, so it's been a bit of a step up for them. What has assisted them lately, though, is their loan signing of Troy's Ike Ugbo. Yes, he was at Cardiff. He moved from Cardiff over to Sheffield Wednesday, and of the 6 goals that Sheffield Wednesday has scored in their 3 previous victories, he has scored 5 of them. So that's a big coup for their relegation push to get out of that relegation zone. I know there's a lot of Ultimate Champions fans that might want them actually to get relegated because potentially the players that we have within Ultimate Champions will score a little better in the lower tier. So let's see how that moves on. They had a great result against Bristol City last week, and they play Rotherham. So very, very big game. Bottom of the log, Rotherham, I think they are basically relegated. There might be a mathematical chance for them to get out, but they are really stone locked. So yeah, something exciting to look forward to going forward to the weekend. I think Ike Ugbo, again, the striker I mentioned, will be great to have in your team. And then your veterans like Barry Bannon and Marvin Johnson, and also Will Vogt would be good selections for Game Week 152. And then last but not least, Hibernian in the Scottish Premiership. They currently, as I mentioned earlier, just outside the championship round spots. They have 2 wins and 2 draws since that loss against Celtic, and they're making a challenge for that top 6 place. They have a great opportunity as well this weekend. They play Ross County, who's also in the relegation zone, if I'm not mistaken. So good time to score points for them. The one guy that stands out for me and is really, really consistent is obviously Joe Newell. He's got 4 successive consistent green scores in Ultimate Champions. And keep an eye out for Chris Cadden. He hasn't played. I think he had an ACL. I think he has been playing for the youth team. He might start to make some bench and sub appearances soon. And yeah, he's an attacking wing back, etc. That could be good for the last stretch of the season.
Brilliant. Before we move on to players, I just wanted to welcome to the NIM fam. We have Vitaly, I think that's right, and Yujiro and Penduline. Welcome to the NIM fam. Thank you.
Terrible. He scored 0, but he atoned for it in this midweek. There's a midweek game week that's currently running, Game Week 153. He atoned and did very, very well.
Wait a second. Okay, just start from Elvis again there, please, Speedy, because I think we got disconnected for a second.
My apologies. So Elvis Bomono, he's a Ugandan. He obviously joined St. Mirren on a free in January from RBV. Since joining, he started 6 of their 7 matches, and has been consistent green scores. As I mentioned earlier, there was one game when he scored a big fat 0 because I had him in my team, but he's atoned for that midweek with a great performance in the Game Week 153, which is currently running. There are only 20 epics and 2 mythics minted in UC, so he's got great scarcity and could also be a great differential great going forward. They play Aberdeen at home this weekend, so I think another decent UC score for him and a potential clean sheet would be great. You can still hear me all?
Yeah, you're all good.
I'll just pause every now and then. Fantastic. Next one is Ilman Ndiaye. Obviously, he did play for Sheffield United last season. He obviously got a move to Marseille. He's not been the best this season in scoring goals and assists, as you can see by the stats that are on the graphic. He is back from the AFCON, and he's netted twice since coming back, once in the UEFA Europa League, and he also scored last weekend in League One. In his first, remember, he's in his first season, as I mentioned, of League One. So UC owners will hope he continues to settle in and be as prolific as he was for Sheffield United. He's fresh off a 244-point haul last week with that goal. They play lowly Clermont, and I'm sure there will be some potential big score for him this game week. And remember, he's a great selection for the Under-23 tournament as well. And last but not least, our new debutants, Northampton. We've got Mark Leonard. I think I saw an epic go for over $100 yesterday on auction, if I'm not mistaken. He's a 22-year-old Scot. He's on loan from Brighton, has a sea of greens for Northampton. I literally went to go look, and I loaded all the way down, and it is just green. So he's a fantastic player. You can see he doesn't score too many goals or assists. However, his possessive, defensive, and offensive stats are really, really positive and gets him most of his points. As I mentioned, Northampton play Charlton this weekend, so potential for another massive green score for any of you who pick him up and play him.
Yeah, he's an exciting one. He's a kind of like under the radar one, isn't he, really? So I like that one a lot. That's kind of, I guess, a little bit like a Radu's question, maybe, that's coming up a little bit later. He could be one that you could answer for that.
100%.
Just wanted to give some shout outs in the chat. Welcome, Dizzy. I hope you're good. Who else we got? Diego is in. Sergio is in. I would love it if that was Sergio Aguero, because I love Sergio Aguero. Thinker's in. Hey, buddy. Bobby's in. Hey, Bob. As it was always going to be an Arsenal player with you. Chris is in. Milos is in. Stefan's in. We've got a good crowd in today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And with that, we would love now to head on to answer some of your questions. So if you've got any questions for us, make sure they're kind of stream related, Gameweek 154 related, anything to do with the game, like as in the, you know, the workings of the game rather than what's coming up or what hasn't happened. Just, yeah, keep it stream specific, please, guys. And the first one we had, because we did put a little kind of thing out on Discord earlier from Jose Morono. Good cheap forward options for the Romania League, please, Speedy.
That's a tricky one. I've actually been I've always had some decent Romanian players, but obviously I've been grabbing some epics of late because I've been very short on the forward department. There are only 4 pages of Romanian forwards available on the marketplace. You potentially don't have to count the last 2 because of the question cheap forward options. I had a look at the marketplace, and you've got Andre Ivan, you've got Jovan Markovic, you've got Parashiv. They are potentially the cheaper options. Rivaldinho as well is another cheaper option, but they are not as consistent as your Comans, as your Berlagis, as your Krasnikis, etc., that are scoring every week. So I would look at those specific players, but they could also potentially hurt you because they are not consistent. So you potentially will need to spend a little to get those big boys, especially if you want to compete in those Romanian leagues and divisions, especially the pro and the world class.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's slim on the cheap fittings, isn't it? That's for sure. In that area.
I failed to mention one, which is old man Nemec from Voluntari. He's about 42 years old in the shade. I'm only joking. But he's potentially one to have that on a game. He can potentially get you a decent score as well. He gets a couple of goals and things like that. So you could potentially hope that your midfielder, defense, and goalkeeper carries you with great scores. And maybe one of your 2 strikers, or depending what formation you're playing, gets a goal or 2 to help you in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had an interesting one from Bob, and he says, in which order do you prioritize your team selection, as in your divisions?
So this will differ obviously from manager to manager, but personally for myself, I have a smaller collection than our big dogs, I like to call them, in Ultimate Champion. So I enjoy starting to build from your cap tournament. So your Ultimate Champions, which is a cap tournament throughout the divisions, your Under 23, which is a cap tournament throughout the divisions as well. I enjoy building there. The cap mode obviously means you cannot go over a certain threshold, which is determined by that athlete's last 5 average score. And I think that brings your bigger and smaller collections a little closer together. And obviously you stand a better chance as well. However, I don't just stay there. I also like to dabble a bit in the world class and the star tournaments. And I've also had some decent results. So if you have a smaller collection, you might not win week in or week out. But if you can put a couple of differentials into those teams that can beat the big collectors on now and then, you can have some decent results in those teams. But I would say myself, cap mode first, and then I'll move on to the rest.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but I tend to, because where I'm fairly new to the game, I have concentrated my collection on a couple of the tournaments specifically, so like the UC1, and I've had a bit of success in the All Stars, so tend to start there, fill those two in, and then I'll go to the other tournaments personally. But that's, as you say, every manager's fairly different, aren't they, when it comes to their approach.
But that's very important for new users to know as well. When you join the game, have a look at the various tournaments we have. Have a look at each tournament, see what leagues and what clubs are covered in those tournaments, and make a decision then which one you want to start off with. And once you've done that, you can then start branching out, obviously, into the other tournaments, etc.
Completely agree. So, Johnny, a star of this show himself, Shambles FC, our best league to target at this stage of the season.
For me personally, I would say best league potentially will be the Eliteserin, which is coming up in less or about a month's time. You could potentially get some good athletes on the marketplace that are lying around there before the actual league starts, because as we all know, once the league starts, once they start performing, those prices on the marketplace start to lift. However, the winter league still have quite a bit of footy left, and as we approach the end of the season, managers could also start picking up some bargains in the marketplace to get a couple of players that potentially will still be covered in the new season. And obviously hold for then, because as we move to that potential winter break, when we've got the summer league playing, you could get a couple of bargains in the winter leagues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question for you. Is there a break at all in Ultimate Champions, or do you literally cross over from one to the other?
We used to, before we had our summer leagues from last season, we used to have a break. Our break was, I don't want to lie now, but I think it was about from June or the end of May, June, until I would actually say the end of July. The lucky thing when we didn't have the summer leagues is Romania. The Romanian league, I think it only takes like a month or 6 weeks break, and then it is back. Your English league obviously takes about 2 months, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not a big break. But because we had the 4 summer leagues last season, we had constant football right through. In the previous seasons, we used to facilitate virtual football game weeks to fill that gap. This season, obviously, currently, we've only got the Eliteserin, which is going to be available. So we will have football right through the season until the Winter League start kicking off again. And remember, in Ultimate Champions, your seasons always run from the 1st of August is the new season, and it runs basically until the end of July. That's also cut off for your under 23 status. So if you have a player that this year is 23 after the 1st of August, is 23 before the 1st of August, they still qualify for under 23, even if they turn 24 in this year, like in September, October, etc. So very important to know that moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually. It's a nice little tip. Okay, so we did kind of touch upon this earlier on when we picked out our players and teams, but Radu09 asked the hidden gem for this game week, please.
I've got 2 that I picked out when I saw this question. One is Baptiste. Baptiste used to be with Pau. I think in early January, if I'm not mistaken, he moved over to Queverly Rowan, QRM. There's been not much discussion about season cards and Epic, and he's performing quite admirably for QRM. He's always scored very, very well in Ultimate Champions. Obviously, with Powell near the end before he moved to QRM. He would play one game or he'd get a cameo there and a cameo here. But for QRM, he's starting in the center of that defense next to Till Sissoko and obviously Alpha Sissoko and Jason Pendant on the right-hand side. So he's a good hidden gem that I think could be quite good for this game week and moving forward until the end of the season. And then the last one is Silla from Montpellier. They play Strasbourg this game week. He was out for a little bit. I'm not sure if he went to AFCON for a while, but he has played the last 2 games. He's already given a contribution with assist, and his attacking stats are great, whether it's assist or whether it's goals. So those are my 2 hidden gems, if I could say.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Geronimo asks pros and cons of allowing managers to auction their players alongside UC instead of just fixed price listing.
I'm not going to give the pros and cons. You can hear me, Nim. I just saw you break up a little bit. Great. I'm not going to give the pros and cons, but I think it would be nice in the future of Ultimate Champions to have auctions available for our managers to be able to list their cards on the auction house. I think that is an exciting feature and will add an extra element to the actual game. Whether it will be competition for what you see auctions and things like that, I'm not sure. I don't think so. It might be a little bit, but I think it can work together because obviously a lot of us will hold various different players. A lot of us hold players in our collection that are no longer covered, so they are no longer available or will not be distributed by Ultimate Champions. And you could have those managers auctioning those specific cards on the auction place and having a nice little bidding war. I think it would add an extra element, extra bit of excitement as well, and maybe potentially in the future that is an addition that we have in Ultimate Champions.
Yeah. Yes, that could be quite cool actually. Quite interesting. Okay, so this is one for me. Brad416 says, in general, how do you find the complexity of our scoring matrix compared to the simplicity of the FPL score? I tend to find that I really like the scoring system of Ultimate Champions because I think it allows slightly fairer scoring system across the board. That said, like in FPL, I feel like it favours, one side or the other. With UC, you tend to find like midfielders and defenders can often do better, say, than strikers. With FPL, it's pretty much midfielders and forwards. So I think in both games they have their kind of pluses and minuses. But what I really like about Ultimate Champions is like just that there's more chance to get points, and that's really nice. Like the simplicity often takes away from the excitement of getting more points, where I feel with Ultimate Champions there's a lot more chance of points to be gained from different actions and not just simple kind of goals and assists, and that kind of makes it more exciting because even if your player's not having a good game with goals and assists or a clean sheet, there's other ways in which they can get points, and that's nice. It's, as a new user, I think it's something you have to get your head around. I will say that, but that's the whole point. It's complex compared to simplicity. And I think when you've played FPL for as long as what I have, sometimes there is that need to feel like you'd like something else, added and some more matrix added to the scoring system, and that's what UC offers. So I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, sure. What about you, Speedy?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. I think it adds more utility to the various positions that you have in a football team. Yes, we all know there are certain criteria for your wing backs, etc., that are potentially not optimal. It's very difficult to get everything as perfect as possible. But I think to have a game like this where you can see that your midfielders, especially your central defensive midfielders, which you all know is totally useless on Ultimate Champions, barring a couple of exceptions. It gives that utility. We're an NFT game as well, so obviously we've got value in the cards, etc., that we own. So obviously we want to that most of the positions has got proper utility. Otherwise, you potentially get going to have certain cards, like you could potentially put your left and right wing backs into, that might be a lot lower than your central defenders, etc. It obviously is determined on what structure, what playing style that specific team has, and how good that team which also impacts the points with the UC matrix currently as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Thinker has his same question that he has every week. He's going. You may as well just sit down, start thinking about this for the next week, Speedy. And he says, same as always, DMP or low capped, less than 50, 115 scores starting, please.
I won't give a player offhand like I did a couple last week, but I will say that the last five average, if you guys aren't aware, the last five scoring average issue has been resolved and rectified. That was done, I think I announced it either yesterday or Tuesday. So go and have a look at all of the athletes that you do have in your squad, because with it being rectified, you could find some that will be under specific cap, and then that'll help you in those specific cap tournaments as well.
Ooh, that's interesting. That's handy. There you go, Thinker. They got your answer there, buddy. All right then, guys. Well, I can't see any more questions in the chat, so I thank everyone who gave us a question in Discord, and anyone who's obviously asked us a question also in the chat. Yep.
Before you leave, I wanted to mention something.
Oh, go on.
I'm harping on our team once again. Arsenal play the last match of this game week. So if you want to have an exciting Monday and race up to the top three, put some Arsenal players in. They play 9 p.m. CET on Monday night. It's the last
We
game,
weren't
so
going
you
to
can
tell
watch.
anybody about this.
You can watch those three players. Hopefully, get you some podium positions.
I love how most of the chat, to be fair, have given us an answer that is an Arsenal related player. To be honest, we've had a couple of different ones. We've had a Grimaldo, Bradley. What other ones have we got?
I think your new mythic Markovic is a good shot as well.
Hope so. Lewandowski's. Like I say, I'm just picking out the ones that aren't Arsenal. There's a lot of Arsenal ones here. Granit Xhaka, that'd be good. Frankie de Jong. Yeah, a few different ones. Mamouche, Omar Mamouche is another. Mason Clark. Just some nice shouts there. Nice shouts. So well done, everybody. Good luck with that. Hope that it works out well for you. Be sure to come back and tell us as well on in the chat and chat about how you felt if you win. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a winner this week. Or winners this week, in fact. should be plenty. So thank you all so much for joining. Are we good, Speedy? Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, that's perfect. Just a shout out to, if there's any of our basketball viewers listening in. Obviously, we've had a couple of virtual game weeks with a break. EuroLeague commences this evening. Good luck for your game week. Mark James is very close to the world record, if I can classify it as that. Mark my words, tomorrow, triple-double incoming, and you'll break the record, and you won't have to wait to next week. There we go.
Wow, that's exciting. Okay then, guys, mark Speedy's words and come back and let him know if he got it right or not next week. And we will catch you then, guys. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Speedy. Take care. Bye, guys. Bye.
Feels like I'm caught up in a trance. Can come down all night. The city never stood a chance. With you by my side, it's all ours. So don't second guess. Let down your guard. Just take a chance. I feel the hours ticking down. Wish I could turn it off.